Hello, everybody. Welcome to Whitley Penn Talks, a podcast series from Whitley Penn. Today, we're introducing a new series as part of that podcast called CAAS Matters. We're going to be focused on providing insight to you on what CAAS is, CAAS Client Accounting and Advisory Services, why it might matter to you, and then where will this service offering go in the future. So we're excited about introducing the series. We think there's a lot of insight that we can bring through some guests that can talk about all different areas of this practice. Today, I'm happy to introduce my friend and colleague, Irfan Dossani. Welcome to the show, Irfan.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you, John.
Why don't you give our audience a introduction of yourself, what your role is at Whitley Penn, and a little background.
Absolutely. I'm partner in charge of our CAAS practice here at Whitley Penn. It's been a fun journey to get here, and as we look ahead, this exciting service line, having to do this day in and day out, it's an incredible honor to do that. A quick background on me: I started my career. I'm a Texas Christian University grad, so go Frogs! And with March Madness coming up too, so rooting for them as well. I've worked at PwC before, then went on and started my own firm, and ended up merging that firm with Whitley Penn back in 2018. So it's been a fun ride in this accounting career, and it's just the ride continues to go on here at Whitley Penn in this role as partner in charge of CAAS.
Awesome, very good. Well, again, thanks for coming on and doing the show. I think there's a lot to unpack here, and look forward to going through it. So today our theme is what is CAAS? We've mentioned that acronym a lot, and some people know what it is and some won't. So we'll define what that is. We'll talk about the evolution of the service line, and then maybe a little bit about where we're going. So that's kind of our discussion today. So let's start with defining CAAS. You've been in this space for a long time. So how do you define CAAS?
CAAS stands for Client Accounting and Advisory Services. It's a practice that helps clients outsource their accounting needs across a broad spectrum of offerings. So think financial, accounting, advisory. And if you think about how those offerings get enabled, technology is a huge component of that. So it's outsourcing accounting, but along that, it's much more embedded around insights and advisory, and using technology as a way to get there.
So I've heard, people describe it as you kind of take your traditional accounting department. So you might have accounting payable clerks and AR clerks, and then you have an accounting manager, and you have a controller and a CFO, and then you have the technology infrastructure around that. So is that kind of what you're talking about, or is it different than that?
No, you're exactly right, John. So, think about a traditional accounting department with needs around, accounts payable, like you mentioned, accounts receivable. You've got reporting, you've got controllership, you've got expense management, and think all the way through business insights, reporting up to the CFO level. So, if you take that whole design of the accounting department, and you can kind of put that seat as CAAS, that's essentially what that is. And then if you think about, well, how does that all get delivered? And there's the technology that is embedded all within all of those functions, as well as to bring all of that together cohesively through integrations and other ways to enable that as well.
So if we're bringing both the services around that and the technology infrastructure to the client, so that they can rely completely on a firm like ours to, they don't have to do all of that with us. They can pick and choose some of that, correct?
That's exactly right. And to take it a little further there as well, is if the value proposition around CAAS is really to enable the client themselves to focus on their core competencies, which is really in their business, what they do well. So they're not spending their time and energies around supervising or building an accounting department out, which is really not what their core strengths are. So the value proposition is very clear, and when we break it down that way along all the different things that we offer as part of CAAS, in a partnership with the client, where the client can just continue to operate that business, it becomes a win-win opportunity for CAAS and the client in that regard.
And I know, as one of the things that's making this offering even more exciting and interesting for clients is the whole lack of ability to find talent, right? We as a CPA firm have we dedicate our time, energy, and resources to finding talent, but it still is a
Mhm.
challenge at times. I mean, a company that's not their core competency, their technology company or whatever, trying to find an accountant and build a career path for them is a challenge sometimes, especially in this environment, correct?
Yes, that's exactly right. And if you think about, from an accounting firm perspective, that when we do offer CAS, is we're taking the bet as CAS departments in these accounting firms that we're going to take it upon ourselves to leverage technology, upskill our people, so each company individually does not have to do that for their own needs. Then they can come to us and say, "Hey, here's exactly what I need," and then from a CAS department perspective, we're truly in our competencies around using our competencies around technology, accounting, and financial insights, and making sure that we could deliver that as a package. So, absolutely, you're exactly right, John.
So now, if we, I always like to take a step back and say, okay, where have we evolved from, and where are we now? And you've obviously been in the space for a long time, and it's certainly changed a lot as technology's enabled and those kind of things. So I just remember CAS from my early days as being, you send somebody out a couple days a week, and they do some stuff, and then they're gone, and maybe get some financials at the end of the month or whatever. Talk about your understanding of the journey of kind of where it used to be, but even more important is how it's evolved to where we are today.
Absolutely, and I would say that that trend, what you described, it still happens, although not in a dominant way like it used to a few years ago. If I look at the space, even in the last 3, maybe 4 years, it's rapidly changed so much that your typical offering, like you said, John, was somebody gets in their car, drives to a client site, and the word bookkeeper was very prevalent. And that bookkeeper shows up, pays the bills, cuts some checks, that reconciles the bank for the last couple of weeks, and hands off, a profit and loss and a balance sheet to the client, and says, "Here's what I show so far. Here's my open items. I'll see you on next Tuesday." And that's what really the value perception was for that service in the market. If you think about the last 3, 4, 5 years, the evolution of that space has become where a client system is no longer this ledger system that a bookkeeper can go in and just make those entries and do what they need to do. The technologies that have gotten integrated into that space, or are required to be integrated in that space, frankly, to produce a lot of the transactional accounting work without having to enter it physically. I think that's been probably the ultimate driving force, is how can we get those transactions entered as close to real time as possible, where we don't need a bookkeeper, quote unquote, coming to site and entering transactions for us. And then you're starting to elevate, your whole accounting department to be more around management of the technologies and the integrations that are coming through, and becoming a quality control function within an accounting department. And then everybody just kind of gets upskilled through that, where then you start to look at, well, now that we've got the transactional accounting down, how do we start to now look at analytics and data and build confidence around using the technology? So now you can go, let's go spend money on spend management, or let's do, automate bill pay or automate other functions. So the evolution has been at an incredible speed, but it's been a necessity that's been brewing for a very long time.
Absolutely. When I think about the needs and where they've come from, to go from where you were from having the bookkeeper on the side to now, a lot is driven by the changes in the marketplace in terms of how quickly the client needs access to information so they can report out to either making internal decisions or reporting out to third parties that need information, banks, so forth and so on. And so, to a certain extent, we've talked about we're almost reaching a closeless society, a closeless process.
Hmm.
It's a continuous closed process, I should say, because I need ongoing insights on a daily, weekly basis so that I know where my cash is, I know what my metrics are, and those kind of things. Is that what we're really seeing?
Oh, yes, definitely. So if you think about in that example, we were talking about the bookkeeper driving to a client site, everything is very retroactive, right? So transactions that took place the week prior, they're getting entered the week later. You already have data that's probably 2 to 3 weeks old by the time the bookkeeper's gotten around to entering it. And if a business owner needs to make a decision around, say it's a restaurant that there's a trend that's happening and they need to close 2 hours early because they're just not seeing enough business, and you think about the daily impact of not getting that data in a timely manner, and you can expand that across any industry as decisions need to be made based on data much more quicker in society than ever before. It's almost an expectation because the technology has grown so rapidly and it's gotten so good that you almost, don't need to rely so much on data entry anymore, that you let the technology really do the work, and that way you can get to business insights quicker.
Yeah, I kind of liken it to, before we had cell phone calls, people were with cell phones, people were okay with, kind of leaving a
Mhm.
message on the home phone and you could get back to them within, a couple days or a week or whatever. But now you have cell phones, people expect to hear from you
Right.
within a minute or two. So all
Yeah.
this technology is increasing the speed of business.
Yeah, and
So,
you think about self-service too, right? The clients are demanding, well, how do I go see this, right? Like, I don't want an email. I don't want, a piece of paper. I just want to be able to access it on my phone or computer or browser or whatever. And I think that's also driving a lot of that.
yeah, absolutely. So we've talked a little bit about what it is. We've talked about kind of where it's been and kind of where it is right now. Now let's talk about where it's going to go, and some things that my clients maybe want to pay attention to in terms of what might be coming down the pike. Is there anything from your standpoint that you want to kind of point out from where you think this is going?
Absolutely. So, if you think about, in the same vein around the journey, the evolution that we were talking about is it's really the word insights. It's the word insights, the word analytics, it's the word data. I think we are called upon as an industry, as a service line, to really partner with clients to help make sense of it, right? Like you had mentioned, like we're pushing more and more the boundaries of this whole continuous close process where it's what's beyond that. Okay, now you closed it. Well, what's beyond that? Now I've got data. Well, what do I do with this data? How do I read through it? How do I analyze it? How do I make decisions around it? So, you know, the uh, the where are we going with this is really around um, becoming more analysts rather than just being executors of just closing the books, right? Even if you think about at an industry level, whether it's controllers or assistant controllers, they're also starting to get asked around. Okay, well, you're closing this, but where do we go from here? And the need for the CAS teams to continue to get upskilled in that area, to continue to lead with technology and insights, I think is going to be the future for CAS.
Yeah, I always think about, I came a little bit from the investment world. And I always think about, there's beta, which is kind of the index and the benchmark, and then there's alpha, which is the return. I always talk about, okay, the alpha in this is the advisory, the alpha is the insights.
Mhm.
Anybody can provide the beta, the benchmark of processing transactions and delivering a financial statement. But where's the alpha? The true value of what firms should be providing is on the advisory side. And,
Hmm.
and I know Whitley Penn and others are adding that, service offerings to enable the office of CFO from, I like to say, entry to exit. And this is certainly a big piece of that.
Yes, for sure. And I think the speed of that, I think about so many of our private equity clients that own these portfolio companies that they're looking to, quickly add value and exit, right? That's the ultimate private equity model. And each day is an ROI factor for them, right? And it's like that with any business, but that one comes to mind where decisions need to just be made very much around analytics, and those insights are real, and it's not about, well, give me 30 different graphs. It's more about what are the key 3, 4, 5 things that I need to know in order to make these decisions. And they're looking at us as accountants to provide that driving ability, right, so to speak, that we know how to navigate these roads that they want to drive on. So you're exactly right. Insights, data, and analytics are the future.
Absolutely. Well, Irfan, I mean, we could probably talk on this for hours, but we'll stop there. I think
Mhm.
this has been a great conversation, and I'm sure there'll be times in the future where we can continue on some of these same topics. But I want to thank you for coming on. Anything you want to, if people are interested in learning more about what Willie Penn and our team does in this space, how would they reach out to you?
Absolutely. So, definitely just go on whitleypenn.com and you can look up our CAAS service page, and it'll walk you through all the different services we provide. But ultimately, look, it's a service line where it begins with outsourced accounting. So you may think, hey, I've lost a controller, or we've outgrown our accounting department, or we just need help. And I'll tell you, more often than not, it's not just about replacing somebody that you've lost for 40 hours with another 40 hours. And ultimately, what you find is that there is a more efficient approach to that accounting department that we could take, utilizing better processes, technology, and of course the people aspect of it. You need people to do some of that execution. But what you find is when you're experiencing that pain, we can help design that solution with a multitude of ways, rather than just to say, well, yeah, we've got somebody on the bench that we could send you, right? So I encourage you to that. If you've got, we laugh about it here in our CAAS teams. If you've got accounting pain, call us. And I feel like I need to almost say that if you've got accounting pain, call us, because chances are that it's not just accounting. It's a process pain, it's a technology pain, it's probably business insights pain. And let's kind of roll up our sleeves and help design you a solution that ultimately will be beneficial for you and what you're looking for, rather than just getting another warm body to come drive up there and execute something for you. So our industry expertise is deep. So pretty much any industry you can think of. We're Texas based. All the main cities are covered from a market perspective, but ultimately, energy, real estate, family offices, not-for-profit, professional services, you name it. I mean, whatever industry you're in, I'm sure we can definitely assist you with that. So
Awesome. Well, fantastic. Again, thanks for the conversation. I think this wraps up this episode.
mhm.
We hope that audience enjoyed this and you found it informative, and hope you'll look out for more episodes upcoming as we continue to address items as far as what matters in the CAS space. So thank you, and until next time, take care.